Ahoy, mateys and classmates! I hope you're all doing well and okay during this crazy time. This week we are talking about reading as other and why it matters, and especially about how boys today don't enjoy reading. My first three children were boys, and so I've always been interested in this subject, and I've loved reading with my kids. We've read Where the Red Fern Grows, Chronicles of Narnia, Harry Potter books. There really are some great books that the boys enjoy, and I always enjoyed reading them to them. One of our favorites was called Peter and the Starcatcher, and I've lost the book cover to that one, but here's one of the books in the series. When we read them, there were 3, and now as I look it up, there's 5. So I guess I've got to do some catching up on my reading. But my boys did love these books. Peter and the Starcatcher is written by Dave Barry and Ridley Peterson. Dave Barry is a humor writer. He's really funny. So when I saw this book, I knew I had to read it to my kids. And I will read a couple paragraphs. There are pictures in the book. Not a lot, but a few. The tired old carriage, pulled by 2 tired old horses, rumbled onto the wharf, its creaky wheels bumpity-bumping on the uneven planks, waking Peter from his restless slumber. The carriage interior, hot and stuffy, smelled of 5 smallish boys and 1 largish man, none of whom was keen on bathing. Peter was the leader of the boys because he was the oldest, or maybe he wasn't. Peter had no idea how old he really was, so he gave himself whatever age suited him, and it suited him to always be 1 year older than the oldest of his mates. If Peter was 9 and a new boy came to St. Norbert's Home for Wayward Boys who said he was 10, why then Peter would declare himself to be 11. Also, he could spit the farthest, and that made him the undisputed leader. So Peter's an orphan, and he's getting sent away to be a servant with a few of the other orphan boys. And they set sail on the ship Neverland, and the adventure begins. There's a trunk of star stuff on the ship, and some evil people are trying to get it. And there's a group of star catchers who are trying to keep them from getting it and from it being used for evil purposes. One of the evil men is Black Stash, who later becomes Captain Hook. When they shipwreck on an island, Peter's captured by Indians who live there, and he's almost fed to a huge crocodile. He rescues some mermaids who then help him save the trunk. All that you need to know about Peter Pan starts with this book. So why do boys lag behind in reading? I think that some boys, and this is what we learned in the readings, might find reading boring. They might have harder time sitting still for very long. Other activities may be more interesting to boys, and they may feel like it isn't manly, especially if their father is not a reader. What are some things that experts recommend to help our boys find reading interesting? One of my favorite ideas is to let children pick the books that are interesting to them, even if it's something that we wouldn't read ourselves. I love the story in the reading about the student who really liked professional wrestling, and the teacher didn't really approve of the sport, but he got him some books about it anyway. And the boy went through all those books, read all those books that the teacher brought him, and even went on to read about steroid use and kind of more advanced readings because he found it interesting. Another thing that I think is important is that dads should enjoy reading with their children. When our kids were young, their dad would read to them. Most of the time he wouldn't read what was written. He would look at the pictures and make up some pretty fun stories. And our boys loved it. Our youngest was a girl, and she hated it. Dad, just read the words. My husband told me that his father also didn't read to him very much, but when he did read to him, he was the one that made up the voices for the stories and made characters, and my husband loved it when his dad read to him. During this class, I read Knots in My Yo-Yo String, which is about the young life of author Jerry Spinelli. He said the only thing he read when he was younger than 16 was cereal boxes and comic strips, and I think he was serious about that. So if a great author could get his start with cereal boxes, I think there is hope for all of our boys.